Have you tried every diet under the sun, but you're still not at your goal? That's because no matter how good these diets are, none of them teach you why you're not losing weight or how to make the right changes for consistent fat loss week after week. So in this video, I'll show you the only advice you'll ever need to set up a fat loss plan that works. But first, you have to understand how all of the weight loss plans you've tried set you up to fail the same way those 3 sneaky bears set up our fair maiden Goldilocks. Because if you don't understand this and you continue falling for these all too common diet traps, you'll never reach your weight loss goal. As we all know, Goldilocks set out on her journey through the forest because she was a curious yet hungry girl. That's when she stumbled upon a cave, which coincidentally had 3 bowls of porridge sitting out ready to eat. Practically starving, Goldilocks dug into the biggest bowl first, but realized after burning her tongue that it was too hot. In the popular fable, the first bowl was Papa Bear's porridge. In dieting terms, we'll call this the too much bear porridge. The too much bear goes into her diet expecting life-changing results in a short amount of time. She starts her diet by swearing off all of her favorite junk food. But when her scale doesn't move down 5 pounds a week every week, the too much bear makes even more drastic changes, like cutting out all carbs. Even though the scale drops a few pounds at first, since her weight loss still isn't fast enough, the too much bear adds 30 minutes of daily cardio to speed things up. While that works for a little while, after another few weeks, the too much bear hits a plateau. This triggers her to make things even harder by cutting out everything but meat. And since 30 minutes of cardio clearly isn't enough, she ramps up her efforts to 60 minutes a day. But just like the porridge that's too hot burns your tongue, following the too much bear diet is guaranteed to burn you out. When you go all in by eating too little, working out too much, or obsessively tracking every last calorie, carb, or gram of fat, this kind of diet is overwhelming and unsustainable. This leads to the too much bear giving up on her strict plan, quickly regaining everything she lost. The main reason the too much bear continued making her diet harder to the point where she couldn't keep up with it is she wasn't getting results, at least not on the scale. And this lack of progress triggers the too much bear to continue making things harder until something finally works. But here's the thing about fat loss. Relying on the scale to measure your results is the worst thing you can do. Because the scale never shows you how much fat you lost, it only shows you how much weight you lost. When it comes to achieving your dream body, weight loss and fat loss are 2 very different things. If you're losing weight with a sustainable plan where you build muscle while losing fat, it's common for the scale to move very little or maybe not even at all in those first few weeks, which means paying attention to how you feel, measuring how many inches you lost, tracking your body fat percentage, and noticing small differences in monthly progress photos are all much better indicators of your progress than stepping on the scale. But even though the too much bear does way too much for a sustainable plan, there's still a few more holes in her approach. But we'll talk about those in a minute. Because first, we need to talk about the next common diet trap that dieters fall into, which is eating healthy. Even though it goes against everything you've been taught about weight loss, relying solely on a healthy diet to achieve your fat loss goals is the fastest way to stay stuck right where you are. When Goldilocks tested Mama Bear's porridge, she quickly pushed it aside since it was too cold. I guess Goldilocks is still too young to understand all of the things that Mama Bear has to do for everyone else before she gets to eat, so of course it's too cold. If you've ever dug into porridge that you expected to be warm, only to realize it's been sitting out for quite some time, you understand the disappointment Goldilocks felt, which is the same disappointment our next bear feels whenever she sets out to achieve big goals with a healthy diet while getting lackluster results week after week. The I only eat healthy foods bear starts her week with a healthy whole food diet made up of mostly lean meats, healthy fats, whole grains, and plenty of fruits and veggies. And she does a good job of making only healthy choices throughout the week. She also ramps up movement by jumping on the elliptical a few times each week. Since the I only eat healthy foods bear does so well during the week, she rewards herself with a much needed Friday night dinner out with friends, followed by binging a Real Housewives marathon all weekend. She also takes a break from cooking to order even more healthy meals out. In fact, she gets so into these crazy housewives that she finds herself staying up late in order to get caught up on all of the debauchery. But just because she's eating out and staying up late, that doesn't mean the I only eat healthy foods bear completely blows off the weekend. Because whenever she eats out, she orders a salad for dinner and sticks to Brussels sprouts as her appetizer. Whenever she gets hungry in between meals, she finds herself snacking on the foods that are clearly labeled as healthy choices. But once weigh-in day rolls around, the I only eat healthy food bear's scale hasn't moved an ounce, despite making all of these healthy choices for an entire week. But why does she get 0 results despite making healthier choices than ever? Let's break down her approach to show you why only eating healthy doesn't work. Even though she's likely eating less calories during the week when going from a diet of burgers and fries to eating mostly homemade chicken and veggies during the week, eating most meals out on weekends can easily blow her overall calorie budget. Yes, even if she's only choosing salads. Just because you make healthy choices, that doesn't mean those options aren't loaded with calories. Whenever you eat healthy all week, only to splurge with several meals out on the weekend, that is an easy way to blow the calorie deficit that you thought you were in. But even if you don't splurge on meals out, just eating healthy foods isn't enough for most dieters, since some of the healthiest foods are packed with calories, like avocados, which add 227 calories to your healthy meal, or those healthy nut butters you snack on throughout the day, which pack in close to 200 calories per tiny serving. If you drizzle heart-healthy olive oil onto your salad, or you use it while cooking lean meats and veggies, you can easily add a few hundred extra calories without even realizing it. Then you have foods like healthy whole grains, which if you stick to a few servings aren't so bad, but when you eat the recommended 8 to 10 servings per day, those calories can add up without providing the same kind of satiety as you get if you put those calories towards more high quality protein sources, especially if you eat your healthy whole grains without any protein, which slows down the insulin spike. All of the healthy foods you choose still have calories, which is what determines whether or not you'll lose weight. Whenever you eat above your TDEE, or total daily energy expenditure, that is when you gain weight, no matter how healthy you eat. So if you're following a healthy whole food diet without paying any attention to calories, that's an easy way to make 0 progress. Other elements of the I only eat healthy food bear's plan also contribute to her lackluster results, since sedentary weekends and neglecting sleep contributes to even more bad choices, all which can lead to a goose egg on the scale come Monday morning. Not paying attention to how many calories you eat, how active you are, and not putting much effort into the quality of your sleep, even on weekends, can lead to the same result as digging into porridge that's too cold. A ton of frustration with 0 results. This brings us to the last bear's porridge Goldilocks tested out, which we'll call the I'm always on a diet, please help me figure out why my scale won't budge bear. When Goldilocks tested baby bear's porridge in the fable, it was just right. But as dieters, we all know that fat loss is never that easy. So the I'm always on a bear diet finally decided to seek help after decades of falling for fad diets that only leads to yo-yoing weight. As a bear in her mid-40s, she was sick of the constant restriction and blatant lies spread all over social media from fitfluencers who only want to sell you some fat burner that made her feel like she's on meth without the added benefit of actually losing weight. Now I get that this version of Goldilocks isn't really appropriate for kids, but I wish someone would have taught me this version much sooner, since it would have saved me 30 years of diet misery. But Also, how is Goldilocks really appropriate for kids? Because I'm pretty sure if you nestled into a cave and then 3 bears came home to find you, they'd probably eat you. Even though the I'm always on a diet bear thought she was following my advice of sticking to a moderate calorie deficit while also building muscle and getting more movement throughout the day, learning how to track the right fat loss metrics helped her realize that she wasn't as consistent as she thought. Because even though she was great at sticking to her moderate deficit during the week, she usually fell off tracking her fat loss metrics by the time the weekend hit. Add in traveling every few months, plus those weeks when she was sick or too stressed out to even care, which meant she never bothered tracking anything. This led to her scale always shooting right back up, leaving her constantly starting from scratch. That's when a sustainable fat loss system finally got the I'm always on a diet bear scale moving in the right direction. Because this system taught her that if she wanted her fat loss plan to work, she had to be more consistent with tracking the right metrics that actually matter for fat loss, and then she had to analyze them on a weekly basis. Learning the system taught her numbers would never reflect what was really going on if she didn't continue paying attention to her plan, especially on weekends or when she traveled, and yes, even when she felt too stressed out to care. Because if you're not consistent with making the right choices most of the time, it's easy to fall right back into your old habits, which leads you right back to where you started. Once the I'm always on a diet bear became more consistent with tracking the metrics that actually matter for fat loss, that's when she noticed her results were finally consistent week after week. And on the weeks she didn't get results, she could easily look back at her data to see which habits she needed to improve. Taking 5 minutes every day to track how many calories she ate, the approximate calories she burned, how much protein she ate, her weekly weight average, plus her daily activity, and then taking another 10 minutes to analyze her results each week helped the I'm always on a diet bear finally make sense of how fat loss works. Since she finally realized how important staying consistent with tracking was, she could finally see how often she was actually overindulging, which helped her also understand that while she never has to be perfect in order to achieve her goals, she does need to be consistent. Using the Forever Fat Loss system to track the right fat loss metrics also helped her finally understand that even though a sustainable fat loss plan takes way longer than she prefers, if she just sticks with the small changes she was making each week, then what previously seemed like slow progress, causing her to give up and constantly start from scratch, well, now she understands that even slow progress is progress, and sticking with her new habits will eventually snowball into the big results she wants, as long as she has patience. In fact, in all 3 examples we just talked about, all any of these dieters have to do is collect the right data about themselves and learn how to analyze it. Taking a few minutes each day to do so can help you finally make sense of the entire fat loss process. That way, it's easy to look back at historical data and see that if I do X, then Y will happen. But if Y doesn't happen, then you can look back at your data in order to learn why, which can help you make slight adjustments to get back to a fat loss plan that works, which I promise leads to way faster progress than constantly jumping from plan to plan, always having to start from scratch. Since just winging it never works for anyone, tracking the right habits helps you fine-tune your plan until you hit your Goldilocks zone, where fat loss becomes effective, sustainable, and tailored to you. Of course, none of this tracking will do a thing for you if you're not eating in the right moderate calorie deficit, which is where 90% of your progress comes from. Watch this video next to learn how to calculate the right macros that help you get consistent fat loss results week after week. That way, you can use these macros as your starting point and then let everything else fall into place for a fat loss plan that finally helps you achieve consistent results.